you're just kind of constantly checking yourself and going, are we good? Are we trying to keep up with the Joneses? Or are we really proud of what we have? Do we want to get another location, 2 locations? Are we trying to scale bigger? So I think it's different than just, hey, I'm a dentist and I own a dental practice and that's good enough. You're just constantly kind of in that tension a little bit of where should you be headed to next?
I think you realize that everyone's really, truly struggling with the same stuff, that nobody wants to admit that they're all struggling with it. Like, they're all wildly successful. And then you hear them talking to someone over drinks that they're like, yeah, both my assistants quit last week. Or, everyone has the same struggles. And so I think as we've been in practice longer, it's just, we've relaxed into that a little bit more. We realize that the reality is different for everybody than what they put out there sometimes.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Dental Truth Project. We are happy to have you here. We've got some awesome guests today. But before we jump into that, we have the Ask Dallin segment. So the question is, what accounts receivable or AR data patterns signal a billing system problem before cash flow is affected? That's a fantastic question. And when you're looking at AR, and especially AR trends, there are 2 big things that you need to be looking at. The first one is the total AR number. It's normal, depending on your practice operations, to have some AR balance, but you don't want to see it going up. So you should have a pretty steady, consistent balance. And if that's growing month over month, then that could signal a problem. The other way that you want to be looking at your AR is in aging categories. So you can see the age of the claim or the age of the procedure, like how long it was. And if you see your 90 plus or 120 plus AR getting bigger over time, or even any significant amount of AR in that bucket, then that could also signify a problem. So again, you want to be looking at your total balance. Is it staying the same or going up over time? Going up is a problem. And then you want to look at your aging, and any amount that's in that 120 plus or 90 plus days could signify a problem. But that's it for the Ask Dallin segment. So we now want to hear a quick introduction from our guests. We have Tonya and Danielle with us. This is really fun for Ken and I. Tonya and Danielle are sisters. So we always love seeing family duos doing things in dental, because that's what Ken and I are. And they run Lee Dental Centers, which is a group of locations down in San Antonio. So Tonya and Danielle, go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then let's jump straight into the truth that you have to share with us today.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, we are sisters and we actually really get along, which helps. I'm assuming you guys get along too, if you're willing to do a podcast together. So that's a good sign. It always surprises people. I think family businesses can go a lot of different directions. So we've enjoyed that we bring different strengths to the practice. And so that's been really helpful for us. We joke with our patients that we're 2 halves of the same brain. So you kind of get a 2 for 1. We both graduated from dental school here in San Antonio. And have been practicing in the family business ever since. Our dad retired from practice back in 2013. So we have been up the helm since then.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been great.
Yes. And I'm the younger dentist, just so you know. I graduated in...
I like to roll that in.
I graduated in 2008 from San Antonio Dental School. So
it's fun being the older sister when you turn 16 and 21. And then at some point, it's not the best anymore. But that's okay. I still claim it. I'll still claim big sister. But yeah, so
you've got just a little more experience. You can be this just slightly senior, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit more. But as we kind of talked through, a little bit of just what we felt our unique perspective might be. I think being at the size that we're at, when our dad started the practice back in the 80s, having multiple locations was an aberration. Like nobody did that back then. And now, so we went from, for very many years in the early part of our practice history, feeling like a very large practice, to now with 4 locations feeling like just pretty normal. We're shocked by how many, that's a pretty small to medium sized practice now. So, but I think that there's a ton of pressure, no matter what practice size you're at, to perform at a certain level, right? And there's a lot of stuff available to you as a dentist, not just from a technology standpoint, but just from a running the practice structural standpoint. And so I think we've noticed definitely some tensions of being this kind of mid-sized group, of being in a 4-location, six associate dentists that work with us. We do have 4 specialties that also work inside our practice. So, and a good number of hygienists that we're really grateful to have. If you're out there, we love you, Arch. So please don't go get a job somewhere else. So we've seen just a lot of tension being in that size and space of wanting to operate and function at a high level, but, not getting, to use a Texas term, not getting too big for your britches, right? Like not putting too much stuff in that you can't really afford, right? So I think that's been a challenge a little bit.
Yeah. And I think at 4 locations, you go to different business seminars or whatever it is, because we try to stay up with everything. And then you almost feel this pressure, like, oh my gosh, do we need to get to 10? Is there, like what, or is 4 good? Like, are we happy with that? And so I think you're just kind of constantly checking yourself and going, are we good? Are we trying to keep up with the Joneses? Or are we really proud of what we have? Do we want to get another location, 2 locations? Are we trying to scale bigger? So it's just, think it's different than just, hey, I'm a dentist and I own a dental practice and that's good enough. You're just constantly kind of in that tension a little bit of where should you be headed to next.
And I love that you're acknowledging that and that you're asking the question, because it doesn't have an easy answer. I mean, as much as it'd be great if, the 4 of us could sit down here for 20 minutes and hash out all the world's problems and come up with a really clean, simple answer to those, it's not that easy. And there's a lot of factors. But even just being willing to ask the questions that you are takes a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of honesty, asking, like, do we really need this or do we not? If we were to grow, what would our reason be? Would we be doing it because it's what everyone else is doing? Would we be doing it because someone else told us to? Or are we doing it because we really want it? Like, what kind of life do we want to build? And how does the business support that? Those are hard questions, but they're the right questions to be asking.
Yeah. Because when we think about, over the years, we have added some administrative layers to our practice. I guess it's been 8 years ago that we hired. So about 8 years ago, having 2 CEO leaders is challenging to a team, because as much as we agree on most everything, we may give you a subtly different answer if you just hit us with a question on the fly. And that happens a lot in a dental practice. And so we recognized a while back, like, it would really benefit us and our teams to have a person underneath us that's a primary resource interface, isn't juggling back and forth with patients, and is more available to troubleshoot and answer questions and do all of that. And it's been a huge asset in our practice. But anytime you start adding those types of layers, there are dollar signs associated with someone of that capacity. And so we've had to really, like, to your point of the word reflect, we've had to reflect a lot over the years. When we look at our EBITDA, or we're looking at something and you're hearing the number and the bar and where you should be. And there have been times when we're like, we're underperforming isn't the right word, but we might not be making as much profit as we could, but we're doing it on purpose. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we've make choices within our life at certain points to go, I would rather sacrifice some of the EBITDA so that I go home at night and I'm not answering the employee call at 5:30 or whatever it is. That's been, again, in that mix of kind of, how do you decide, to add those layers? Are you doing it because you want to buy yourself some freedom and peace of mind? Or are you just doing it to scale? Or, I think everybody's reason for hiring and creating structures in their practice is a little bit different. So it has been something important to us come back to together periodically and go, like, we're okay. Like, you're okay, I'm okay. This is what we're doing, is it's working well for us, and our doctors are happy and our patients are happy. And it might not look like everybody else's practice, which is okay. I mean, and so there's a lot of pressure in dentistry, right? There's a lot of, we always used to joke when we would go to meetings when we were younger, and it's just, there's so much fanfare. And then I think you realize that everyone's really, truly struggling with the same stuff, that nobody wants to admit that they're all struggling with it. Like, they're all wildly successful. And then you hear them talking to someone over drinks that they're like, yeah, both my assistants quit last week. Or, everyone has the same struggles. And so I think as we've been in practice longer, it's just, we've relaxed into that a little bit more. We realize that the reality is different for everybody than what they put out there sometimes, for sure.
Well,
Yeah, and there's an element of it too, right? That is, it's about like you get to design this. Because, for example, I have people who come to me and say, "Hey, Ken, when should I sell? When should I sell? And when's the best time to sell?" And I always tell them it's whenever you're ready. It doesn't have to. Market factors, all those other things do not matter. It's about like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you doing with patients and patient care and your associates and, everything that goes with it? Does that resonate some?
For sure.
Yeah. And I think, especially being at a 4-location practice, I think that question's always in the back of our mind a little because we're like, well, we're too big for one dentist to buy us. I mean, no one can buy 4 locations, but we're like, but we're happy doing what we're doing and we don't want to necessarily sell something yet. But then it's like, is that opportunity going to close at some point? The heyday is in the past and now there's not as many things getting purchased in a decade, right? So we always have that kind of floating around in our brain too. And then, but as we've been out, there's lots of ways to structure things, lots of ways to do different deals. But yes, that I think is on our brain sometimes because you got to know a little bit what's next or what you're shooting for.
Well, and I think, we have been down the exercise of like, what would it look like to sell the practice? What would our valuation look like? Really kind of going under the hood, so to speak, and pulling out all the stuff and looking at everything. And it's funny. It's like, it's like you're getting ready to sell your house and you get it all cleaned up and you repaint the walls and you do all the stuff and you're like, it's not a bad house. Like, I like the house. I think I'm going to stay in the house. I think it was such a good exercise to like really look at that process. And I would encourage a dentist to be like, you don't have to sell your practice. Just pretend you're going to. Like, pretend you're going to sell your house. Clean out the closets you want to clean out. Do the stuff that upgrade the things you want to do. Make it livable for you. And to us, I feel like it shifted a mindset of if we're running it well, it's going to be more successful while we own it. And then it will bring more value at some point when the time is right for whatever comes next for it. But I think that focus on kind of optimizing our processes, the way we do things now, just makes it a cleaner operation for us to run and certainly would make it a more attractive or cleaner operation for somebody else down the road. So it's a win-win at that point.
There's never anything wrong with running a lifestyle business, right? It affords you good income. It affords you time to do other things that are important to you or family related things. And so, I've seen a lot of dental practices be very successful just being run as a lifestyle business. They're pleased with the income that's coming in and all of those sorts of things. So there's so many options and there's so many ways to cut the cloth on this one.
It is. It is hard though, because I think most dentists are built a little type A. So it's hard to kind of reconcile that like, no, it's okay. It just has to do well enough to do well enough. And then you're like, but it could be better. It could be, you're always, there is that part of you. There's a competitive part about all of us, right? That's like, I still want it to be the best it can be. It's, you gotta check yourself a lot on that for sure.
Yeah. But in my head, it's about being intentional. And I love this conversation because for me personally, in the early days of AccruDent, I was of the mentality that business owners and entrepreneurs put in 12-hour days and they 10 times the size of their business every year. And like, if you're not growing to the size of Google, you're doing it wrong. Like, scale fast, scale hard, work hard. You're not allowed to have hobbies. You don't do anything else in your life. Like, that is what a business owner is. And so I'm working myself to death. And great friends and mentors were like, Dallin, why are you doing this? I'm like, because this is what everyone does. Like, I'm running a business. Like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And just the truth that, like, it's yours. You own it. You do what you want with it. If you don't want it to look like Google, don't make it look like Google. If you don't want it to look like the dental practice down the street, don't do that. If you don't want to be Heartland or Aspen or PDS or MB2, then don't. Like, what makes you happy? What do you like doing? And if you love having 4 locations, being in the chair a couple days a week, like having relationships with patients, mentoring doctors, making your staff members happy, fantastic. If it makes you happy to go up to 10 or to go to 15 or 20, fantastic. If it makes you happy to sell, do it. If it makes you happy to just keep running it, do it. But like, it's yours. Like, whatever floats your boat. Like, as soon as that truth sank in, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I think there was a physical weight that came off of my shoulders. I was like, wait, I can clock out at 5 and like No one's going to tell me no. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. And I mean, we're lucky because there's two of us, right? So, and we are, we are the same in so many ways, but her strengths are different than mine. And so we just know if there's certain things, she kind of takes the ball and runs with it. And then if there's the things that I'm good at, then I can take it. And not everyone has that ability, right? To have someone that they're best friends with and that they trust that can be at the same level of them in business. And we can ping ideas off each other all the time. When we talk in the car on the way to work, at lunch, we have lunch together. Then we usually talk on the way home.
Yeah.
But it's fun and it's not all about work. It's about life for sure, most of the time.
Yeah.
But so we recognize that we're very blessed to have each other to do the things that not all CEOs and owners have. We have someone we trust right next to us that can take off some of that weight. We're both dual income households, so we have spouses that have jobs. So it's not all dependent on us either, right? And so again, I think every business owner is just in a different situation, right?
The pressures are different.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we feel really responsible to our patients to maintain that kind of relational atmosphere that they've been used to for so long with our practice. And, we talked a little bit before the show about just our retention with our doctors and our hygienists. But a lot of that is because there's such a deeply relational way to how we like to practice and how we like to lead and be involved with our teams. And so when you do that, there are other things that you go, well, that's not really us. And that other way might work really well in certain practices and in certain regions or areas or whatever. We've just had to decide what's unique for us and what makes sense for us. It's been good. Gives us a much cleaner lens to look through now, for sure.
Yeah. I would love for you to just share really quickly, what are kind of the key frameworks that you guys go to train associates to just deliver a phenomenal care and a phenomenal experience to the patients that you guys have. I'm really interested in how you guys think about that because it's a big part of who you are and how you're sustaining the business, right? And growing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I would say, I wish that I could tell you we had some really magical training platform for our associate dentists.
And I wasn't expecting that, but I'd love to hear the mindset about it.
Just our mindset. We have I think some of it is how our practice is structured. I think you can speak a lot about what your expectations are by the time you allow for things, what the hygiene support looks like, what the assistant support looks like. We're very intentional about trying to be on time with patients. And so there's just things that kind of run sort of some core intentionalities inside our practice. We do a lot with, we meet a lot with our doctors. That is one of the good things about being the size that we are with 4 practices. I mean, we drive around and visit our teams. We definitely have a lot of interaction in that way so that it gets a little bit of that kind of telephone game, organic transfer of, how we do things and it's not always perfect. We have a fantastic team right now. You're always going to have some really great dentists who don't fit. But I think over the years, we've gotten better at detecting that. And we've always tried to really be mindful about having good relationships to start and good relationships to end, because dentistry is a really small community. And so I think that's been something we've learned over the years too, is just having really healthy, honest conversations if something's not a good fit, and allowing people to find something that works better for them too. So, I think some of those things have helped us cultivate some really strong teams over the years.
Yeah. And I think, one of the first things we look at when we talk to someone is just, are they easy to talk to? Like, can we hold a really just easy, normal conversation with that dentist? And if we do, we're like, this is great, because that's what our patients want. And I think we found if we bring in someone who just can't do that as easily, then our patients sense that, right? And then that just doesn't work out well long term because the patients don't love that provider. And so we really look at like, are they just a good person, easy to talk to? Of course, we'll look at their resume and see how long they've been a dentist, all those things. And I think when we saw like, the DSOs really kind of starting to take over certain pockets, of course, we got worried thinking we are never going to be able to hire and keep again. Look at these recruitment packages they give them. Look at what they signing bonuses. Like, we can't do that kind of stuff. And it was really kind of shocking. I think it surprised us a lot to see with dentists and other positions that we actually got phenomenal resumes in from people who had worked at DSOs and they liked it at that point in their life. They're like, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, I can't do that that style anymore. And I do want to be in I want to be in a family owned. I don't want to own my thing anymore. Maybe they used to own, right? They don't want to do that anymore, but they're like, I'm not working for a DSO anymore. And so we actually got phenomenal associates and hygienists through who had gone through that structure and then wanted to come in. So I think it was very refreshing for us that there's a whole group of candidates who just don't want to do that, but they're great and they just want to be in our style and our model better. And so anyways, that was something we were very happy to see that they didn't take all the candidates.
I remember our dental school here when I was like, oh my gosh, the second year they're taking them out for drinks. We're never going to hire anyone again.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, I think there's just space in dentistry for a lot of different ways to practice. And there's some things that work really well for new grads coming out. And it's like a great structured system. Their CE can be really strong. There's just a lot of stuff that helps. But I do think that we have found some of our sweet spot has been people who've been out 2-3 years. They're feeling a little burnt by the schedule. It's a little too high volume for what they'd like to be doing. They want to refine the way they practice, focus on cosmetics, focus on some implants, different stuff. And then we're really a unique environment for that because we have specialists you get to work with. And there's, so that collaboration and getting to learn in a different way. But we've, again, that short-term anxiety has gone away. Yeah, it's passed. I think we just feel like there's a place for a lot of people in different ways and different models that serve different people at different times of their lives and all that good stuff. So.
And there's so much here about the more you guys stay true to yourselves and what your mission is and what you want to accomplish, the more you're attracting the type of people who are attracted to that type of mission, right? And that type of environment, that type of culture, and that type of, patient modality, thinking.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's been great.
Yeah. Well, I think we're coming up on the end of our time. Thank you to both of you for coming on, for sharing your experiences. I've absolutely loved our conversation, and I think our listeners are going to be blessed by your wisdom. If anyone listening has more questions or wants to keep the conversation going with the two of y'all, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Probably email, I would think. Yeah, email is probably the best way.
Feel free to share so people can reach out.
Yeah. So email Christal, it's Christal. It's my last name. I've got a first name, last name. So Christal DDS at leedentalcenters.com. And then I'll forward them all to Dr. Powell. I'm just kidding.
And then mine is Powell, Powell, DDS at leedentalcenters.com.
Yeah, but we'd love to hear. We talk to the dental students here. It's fun to talk to people and let people realize they're for sure not alone. We have struggled through many of the things that people have struggled through in practice that's 40 plus years old. So we've been through a lot of things we've navigated. We'd be happy to answer any questions we could.
Awesome. Thanks a ton. And that concludes this episode of the Dental Truth Podcast. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.